Sauber is a name we don't often hear around the paddock anymore, and it's a real shame. Many new Formula 1 fans probably don't know this, but behind the red and white façade of the Alfa Romeo team lies a name that's been around the grid since 1992, and that outlasts every other apart from Williams, Ferrari and McLaren. With the recent announcement that they are going to become Audi in 2026 and that Andreas Seidl is taking over as CEO effective immediately, we're going to take a look at what a roller coaster it has been for the only Swiss Formula 1 outfit who managed to come back from the bottom many times, and that has had super important names like Mercedes, Red Bull, Alfa Romeo, BMW and now Audi by its side. Here's the story of the Sauber Formula 1 team. Founded by Peter Sauber in 1970, their first car didn't compete in Formula 1. They instead were a sports car manufacturer, and since the beginning, they were at the very top. The Sauber C1 was their first car ever built, and Friedrich Hürzeler became champion with it. The first internationally significant Sauber was the C5, which did quite well in the 1977 and 1978 24 Hours of Le Mans. 4 years later, Peter Sauber was commissioned to build the car for the Group C World Sports Car Championship. The C8 came 2 years later, and, fitted with a Mercedes engine, won the 1,000-kilometer race at the Nürburgring. On the back of that result, Peter Sauber convinced Mercedes to return to racing for the first time since 1955. From here on out, they acted as their official works team, and the Silver Arrow was reborn. In 1989, the Sauber Mercedes C9 won the 24 Hours of Le Mans with a 1-2-5 finish. The following year, they won the World Sports Car Championship with the help of a little-known driver named Michael Schumacher, after which he got a testing contract with the Jordan Formula 1 team. I wonder what became of him. Anyway, looking to enter Formula 1, they started a joint project in the summer of '91, with preparations to enter for 1993. With this new project in place, Sauber built a factory where the company stood in Switzerland, as opposed to the other contractors all based in the UK. Mercedes eventually withdrew from the project, but did not pull all the funding, helping build the Sauber C12. As a side note, the C used in all the chassis names is always in reference to Peter Sauber's wife, Christine. In late 1992, the first tests of the C12 were underway, with an Elmore engine. They were set to enter the grid for 1993. The very first race of the season was South Africa, and on their debut they turned heads due to their stunning black livery and amazing performance, getting their first points with a 5th place finish. They ended the season tied in points with Lotus, and got P7 in the standings out of 13 teams. I'm pretty sure they could have finished much higher, but there's only so much you can do when you have 18 reliability related DNFs. 1994 marked the return of Mercedes to Formula 1, powering the Sauber team, and they got off to an okay start. Performance seemed to be similar to the previous season, but so did reliability. After only 3 events, main driver Wendlinger suffered a serious head injury in Monaco that ended up with Andrea De Cesaris taking his seat for the following events, and JJ Leto for the final 2 races. This instability made Mercedes want to join a bigger team, and they opted to accept McLaren's offer. For the 95 season, Red Bull entered Formula 1 for the first time, sponsoring Sauber with a 10-year deal, along with Petronas. This was a nice change in pace compared to the previous seasons where they had little backing from anyone apart from Mercedes. Coming into their 3rd season, they had solid future stability and were powered by Ford. Heinz-Harald Frentzen had a great season, scoring the team's first podium and 15 out of Sauber's 18 points. A switch to Cosworth engines for 1996 proved to be the wrong move, and got a deal to have Ferrari power from 1997. This was intended as an interim measure, looking to working with Petronas to construct their own engine. A plan that a major economic crash in Asia, and Petronas being a Malaysian company, fell through. They would therefore extend their contract with Ferrari and manufacture their own gearboxes while buying every Ferrari part allowed under the regulations. In 2001, Sauber made a young rookie debut in Formula 1. This was Kimi Räikkönen, who on just his 2nd day of testing lapped half a second quicker than regular driver Pedro Diniz. He, along with his teammate Nick Heidfeld, helped Sauber to their best ever result to date in the championship, 4th place. Right after that, Kimi was snatched by McLaren, and in came Felipe Massa, who was later also snatched this time by Ferrari. This was the start of what became a regular occurrence in this team, giving a seat on the grid to talented rookies like they did with Leclerc, Kubica, Perez, Hülkenberg and more. In 2004, they built their own wind tunnel, and this was a big deal. They were and still are only one of a handful of teams to have one. This attracted the attention of BMW, who was at the time an engine supplier for Williams. They had been in talks to take over the team, but owner Frank wasn't keen on the idea. They wanted to remain as customers, not constructors. BMW wasn't satisfied and wanted to cannonball into the oily and rubbery Formula 1 pool. Therefore, they left their partnership collapse with Williams, opting to take over Sauber. By this time, the link between the Swiss outfit and Ferrari was quite thin. This was demonstrated by the fact that for 2005 they ran with Michelin tires, opposite to all other Ferrari teams who ran Bridgestones, due to the partnership they shared. At the end of 2005, a majority stake of the Sauber team was sold to BMW, with Peter Sauber only retaining 20%. This meant a rebrand to BMW Sauber. The first half of the 2006 season was looking promising. The team had already bagged a number of point finishes, and the constant aero development was showing a real appetite for victory. Tensions were high with driver Villeneuve, and since reserve driver Kubica did such a good job subbing for him, he got to drive for the remainder of the season. The team managed to finish 5th in the championship, crucially ahead of their closest rivals Toyota. 2007 was a better year, with a great aero package and a solid lineup of drivers. Their only setback was reliability on both the power unit and the gearbox. They were in a no man's land when it came to the standings, with McLaren and Ferrari way ahead but clear of the midfield. They got their maiden podium of the season at the Canadian Grand Prix after Kubica's nasty crash, and the race after that, filling in for the pole, Sebastian Vettel made his Formula 1 debut. They finished 2007 with 101 points, 50 clear of Renault but 65 behind McLaren, although these were disqualified due to the Spygate scandal, so BMW were bumped up to runner-ups, second place in the standings. The 2008 season was the best in Sauber's history, both drivers starting in the top 5 on the first event. At Malaysia, Kubica finished second after climbing from 6th at the start. A pole position yielded a third place the following race, and after a second place in Monaco, Robert had a redemptive weekend at Canada, taking his and BMW Sauber's first win and won too. It was around this point though that the executives decided to lift off the throttle, to stop development of the 2008 car, to focus their efforts on the 2009 regulation change. This was not a popular decision within the team, and to this day Kubica says this was the decision that cost him the championship. A string of decent results would follow, but they were no match for Ferrari and McLaren, and apart from a late podium appearance, they would struggle to finish on the points for the last few races. Their next car was supposed to be a rocket, but ended up being a hot air balloon, rising slowly while overheating. They had only one podium finish, and that was pretty much it. After 9 appalling races with only 2-point finishes, BMW called a press conference and called it quits at the end of the season. The entry list for 2010, with the new teams coming in due to the budget cap introduced, meant that the grid was full and it looked like Sauber were not going to race. In late 2009, Peter Sauber reacquired the team and was hinging on another team dropping their efforts for the 2010 campaign to be able to show up. Lucky for him, Toyota's sudden announcement secured a spot on the grid for the now again Swiss team. Although they would be running Ferrari engines, the BMW name stuck for another season, due to Peter Sauber not yet applying for a name change with everything happening so suddenly. The only thing that was BMW about the car was the 3 letters on the inscription, because the chassis was Sauber, the color scheme was Sauber, the engine was Ferrari, and the employees were Sauber. The 2010 and 2011 seasons were just trying to hang on and get it together after the reacquisition, with no outstanding results, and in 2012, they regained their momentum. A decent season with 3 podiums by Checo Perez and 1 by Kobayashi was the high point, and then the decline would restart. The 2014 regulation change meant that Ferrari engines were pretty much the worst of the grid. They dropped from 7th with 57 points to 10th with 0. This was the first time they hadn't scored, even with the new point system. 2015 was marginally better, but another 2 last place finishes in 2016 and 2017 made them desperate for money. An uptick in performance was very welcome, with a very capable Leclerc making his Formula 1 debut in 2018, and a buyout by Ferrari family member Alfa Romeo was very promising. Unfortunately, this didn't pan out. From 2019 to 2021, they ran Raikkonen and Giovinazzi. And the results were bad. They finished 2021 in 9th place. Alfa Romeo Sauber has been a backmarker since its inception, with the exception of early 2022, where Bottas could take full advantage of the well-developed car, while Zhou was still getting used to it. They scored 4 points in the last 13 races, but still, in the end they managed to miraculously hold on to 6 in the standings, with Aston Martin equal in points. For the first time in many years, I actually feel good about Sauber's future. With quick driver and a very talented rookie, this was a great season for the team, reliability aside. And with the recent announcement that Alfa are leaving, making way for Audi in the near future, I can only hope this time it will be a fruitful acquisition. Andreas Seidl moving from McLaren was a shock, and one that I think will work well. He led the Porsche WEC project to insane success, and seemed to be on the path towards the same over at McLaren. I just hope they do well together, and that Audi can step to the top of the Formula 1 podium. What do you think will be of Audi Sauber? Leave your answers in the comments down below. So, this was it for this week's video. Yeah, it was a long one, but if you enjoyed it, make sure to leave a like, subscribe to the channel if you haven't already, and as always, I will see you all in the next one.